Facebook is CNR Beauty Bar. Instagram is CR Beauty Bar. We also have a YouTube page, CNR Beauty Bar, and which you can find us right now either on YouTube or on Facebook. And don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe, please, and thank you. We also have a salon web address. It's www.cnrbeautybar.com. So please feel free to reach out to us with any of your questions regarding the discussion we're having tonight or anything else related to your hair.
And we also want to make sure that we share Representative Scott's contact information as well. So we're going to actually add that to the chat so that everybody can have her information. And if you have any additional questions outside of our discussion tonight, you can feel free to reach out to her for sure. So we'll do that now, and we'll add that to the chat.
Thank you. And just so folks know, I'm making sure I'm posting this live on my Facebook page as well. So thanks so much, y'all.
All right. So first thing that we want to kind of just talk about is just a little background on the Crown Act. So Representative Scott, if you could just give us a little bit of background on it as just a general background information.
Definitely. So the Crown Act is a law that, while it has passed the House and Congress, it has sat in the Senate and not gone anywhere. So states are taking it upon themselves to pass legislation that protects people who wear natural hair from discrimination in housing, education, and employment. At least that's what our bill here in Kentucky does. There have been a number of cities and counties and states that have passed the Crown Act. In fact, right here in Kentucky, Covington, about 2 months ago, passed the Crown Act. So Northern Kentucky has a local ordinance that says you cannot discriminate against someone because they wear an afro or twists or locks or braids. And so I'm working along with wonderful folks like CNR Beauty Bar and other organizations and individuals across Kentucky to make sure that we pass that legislation at the state level so that we protect people. And so folks don't have to fear discrimination based on how they wear their hair.
Awesome. I know that for us, we talk about hair discrimination, right? And so one of the reasons why I think this struck a chord with us, and Shanika, you can definitely chime in, is that when our clients sit down in the chair, we hear all the time, "Oh, I can't wear my hair like that." Right.
Yeah.
Right. To work. Oh, I can't do that style, or no, just make it straight because I'm going for a job interview. And so it just is very frustrating, and it's almost kind of like we are not allowing our clients to kind of be their authentic selves because of fear of hair discrimination. So that's something that I think really struck a chord with us when we heard about this. Even when it first came out, I think it was it 2019 when it first came?
First one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, California, and I heard about it, and I was like, "Wow, this is really awesome." I wish something like this could come to Kentucky, but because of what we hear every day in our chair, even with some of our male clients, that rock locks and other, braided styles and things like that. They're like, "Oh, I need to do it a certain way so that I'm viewed as being professional or that people take me serious." And it's just really sad that, we're at that point in 2021 where we still can't wear our hair the way it grows out of our heads. It's just crazy to me.
Well, I appreciate you bringing up the fact that this is something that impacts men as well, because far too many people think we're just talking about what happens to women. We're not, right? We're talking about what happens to men as well. And we've got to push back against this idea of what is professional, right? Like, who decided what's professional, what's acceptable? I think natural hair is fabulous and it looks fantastic and it can be worn in lots of different ways, and people still get the job done. So we've got to push back against this narrative about what's professional.
Exactly. Shanika, it sound like you're about to.
I was just co-signing, but I wanted to add to what you said, Rika, in that why this is important to us as a salon, a Black-owned business. We mostly service adults, male and female, but we have had a number of young people, children under the age of 18, come in, and there is definitely a push for, parents wanting to keep their child's hair natural because they don't want to use chemicals on them, or parents wanting their children to also parents wearing their hair natural or wanting to, so their kids can also see themselves in their parents. And there's so many, if you ever go to an elementary school, there's so many little Black and brown girls wearing their curly hair. And it's important for laws like this to be passed because we need some protections for them going into the future. They're liberated right now to do it, but it's almost like, it's kind of like when parents come in, they say, oh, my child wants their hair blue. And they say, oh, I don't want, I really don't want that. And I say, well, you might as well let them have their hair blue now because they won't be able to when they get in the job place, which still may be a thing because it's blue hair. But we don't want to have to tell our children that because your hair is curly, honey, you have up until 18 to wear your hair like this. And then afterwards, you're going to have to adapt to a more professional look. So we really need laws like this to pass to help protect the future, really.
It's really kind of a part of that shrinking that we have to kind of go through, kind of like shrinking ourselves or kind of dumbing ourselves down so that we can be accepted. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be that we should be able to walk in the door and be accepted just the way we are. And so this is just really passionate for me. I wanted to be serious with Representative Scott about kind of getting the word out there and getting some feet on the ground and some people really putting more action than words. So So yeah, this is where we're at, and we wanted to definitely tell you all and just inform you all about the Crown Act. A lot of people don't even know that the Crown Act actually means something, which I think even more so drives the reason why I feel so passionate about it. And I'm going to read it just so that I don't get it wrong, because it's the Crown Act is creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. And again, we focus on natural hair. And so I was like, this is like definitely in line with our passion and our goals. So we were definitely one to bring that up for sure.
And it's so important. Every single word in that acronym CROWN is powerful, right? We're creating, we're respecting, it's open. It's all about what you said in the very beginning, Rika, about our whole authentic selves, right? So that's how we want people to be able to show up. And, when we get into the so-called adult world, that world strips us of our creativity. Our hair is one form of creativity, and then the world strips us of it when we become adults. I truly appreciate the point around not taking that away from young people under the age of 18. That's when they should be exploring, figuring things out, trying things out, testing it out, see what they like and don't like, rather than us saying we're going to take everything away. The world already takes away especially young Black kids' childhoods from them, right? Our kids are automatically considered adults when they come out of the womb. And we don't need to add to that by saying you can't be a kid and wear pink hair, right? So every single word in that acronym means something.
Absolutely. Could you also just kind of reiterate, Representative Scott, about how here in the state of Kentucky, like when the Crown Act was introduced and kind of like where it's at right now, just kind of reiterate that, because I think it is so important for people to understand like what's going on the state level.
Certainly. And I appreciate the folks who are letting us know where they're tuning in from. I love it. Awesome. Shout out to Golden State House. So you're right. 2019, California was the first state to pass the Crown Act. And one of our strongest organizations here in Kentucky, activist organizations, Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, saw that and they reached out to me. It was me and Rep. Booker at the time when he was serving in the House and said, would y'all be interested in filing a similar bill for Kentucky? And I immediately said, yes. You know my story of my daughter when she was at school, and I'll share that in just a moment with folks. So it made sense. And I have natural hair, so it made sense for me to be the primary sponsor. And so that folks know where we are today. So I filed the bill in January 2020. And asked the chair of the committee that it was assigned to hear the bill. And he said, what is this about? Why would we hear this? What are you talking about? And I explained it to him. And he said, he tried to hear it by the end of the session. Well, COVID made the session very short. And so we didn't get to hear it. But he also said then that he would try to hear it during the interim session, which is, basically the summer and fall. It didn't happen then either. So now we're back. January 2021, I filed the bill again. It hasn't yet been assigned to committee, so we've got to keep applying pressure to the Speaker of the House, Speaker Osborne of Oldham County, to send the bill to a committee so that it has the chance to be heard, so that stories like the ones y'all are sharing up from your clients can be told, like stories like what happened to my daughter at her high school, where the Site-Based Decision-Making Council created a new policy that kids couldn't wear their hair naturally. And my daughter and her classmates organized together, and within a week, we're able to get that policy changed. But it's also important that we lift up people like Dina, who is in the Tangled Roots documentary, who talks about working at one of our big fancy hotels here in Louisville. And shortly after giving birth to her second child, went back to work, had her hair in box braids, because it's a lot. New mom, and she also had another young child, and she's also trying to work. And her job told her her hair was too fashion forward and that she would have to change it. And she got so much pressure at work that she ended up leaving her job. And so I don't want that. And I'm sure y'all don't want it, and your viewers don't want that to ever happen to someone else's child, to happen to another person at work, or like the emails that I got when I first filed the bill from parents who would say things like, I want my child to be able to be on the cheerleading team, but they want my child to straighten their hair. And my child's hair is not straight, right? So what in the world does somebody being able to do a flip and the splits? What in the world does their afro or their braids have to do with their ability to be an amazing cheerleader? So we got to look at every single way in which our kids and we as adults are discriminated against in this society. We got to break all of that down and dump it on its head and create policy that protects us.
Yeah, I saw there's a statistic that says that Black women are 1.5 times more likely to be sent home from their workplace because of their hair.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And to me, I was like, that is just crazy. That's just crazy to me. That as long as it's styled and not and nice, like it shouldn't be an issue. But also, I think it is it's a diversity issue. It's a, who do you have, making the decisions in your company?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have people of color that understand that, straight hair is not the only way that you can wear your hair?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a snowball effect when we talk about diversity in the workplace. And another statistic that I saw that it says, I have to change my hair from its natural state to fit in at my office. And it said that 80% of Black women agreed with that statement. Wow. And I'm like, that's just, it takes my breath away. That again, in 2021, we are still in a place where so many women or people of color, period, because like you said, not just women, but even men with the way that they wear their hair are still being, discriminated and excluded just because of the hair that grows out of our scalp.
That's right. And your point, naturally, exactly. And your point around who's making these decisions is so important. I used to serve on Louisville Metro Council. I was on there for 3.5 years, had my hair in locks. I was appointed first to the seat, so I had to be interviewed along with everyone else. I learned after I was no longer on council, I learned from another council person that after my interview, some of the council members looked at each other and said, do you think she's going to change her hair if she's appointed to the council? So I'm thinking to myself, what in the world do my locks have to do with my ability to be an effective member of Louisville Metro Council? And so, yes, at every level, that's what we experience, those kinds of questions around if we're going to change ourselves to fit into an environment that was never designed for us anyway. So we had to, right, we had to break down barriers anyway to get to be in local and state and federal government. And now you want us to change who we are in order to stay there.
That's just crazy to me. And especially for a city as progressive as Louisville, again, for it to be an issue. But again, it's about who's at the table. What type of representation do you have? Diversity, and not just color, but then also age, mentality, background, ethnicity. All of those things are so important. So we definitely wanted to give a chance for people to ask questions, share comments. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, definitely put those in the chat, and we'll definitely try to address your questions and comments. And then Shanika, did you have anything else that you wanted to add, or any experience that you wanted to talk about?
I don't have any personal experience. A lot of it really just comes from being a hairstylist and listening to people's conversation around their hair and really the type of oppression that they experience on a daily basis going to work, or their bosses making those microaggressive comments. Like, they may see a picture of the employee on their desk with straight hair, and in person they have braids, and they say, "Oh, I like that hairstyle better," kind of deal. So yeah, I have just really been my whole life probably a little bit naive about what other people think about me, in particular my hair. Like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. But I don't think my naivete in that way is, I think it has served me well, because I just do what I want to do. And it kind of, it is upsetting that other people don't feel the liberty to really do that. The Crown Act is a step in the right direction for so many reasons.
Yep.
I appreciate you saying that, because my focus tends to be on policy that lifts up racial justice. And for me, the Crown Act is a racial justice issue for us to be able to show up as who we are. And I want to make sure that your clients and folks who are tuning in know that, if we want to be able to thrive, I think it's important for us to survive. But if we want to do more than survive and we want to thrive, then we have to have policies that make that possible. And that's what the Crown Act is about. It's about our ability to thrive as our whole selves.
Absolutely.
Yep. Let's see. I think there was, let me make sure there was a question in the chat. We do have, I have a couple of questions that we can start off with. And one of my questions was, I wanted to just highlight really like how many states have passed the Crown Act. And I don't know if you want to take it, Representative Scott, or, I have the information here, but I wanted to definitely highlight that here. I know that I think it's 7 states that have passed it. And I know it's California, New York, New Jersey.
Virginia.
Surprisingly, Virginia, I think, is one of
Virginia was the latest one. They are the most recent state to pass the Crown Act.
Okay.
Yeah.
Colorado is one, Washington, and Maryland.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Covington, Kentucky.
And Covington.
Next. Let's go.
Yeah, I think it was another a municipality, is that right? No.
Virginia is a commonwealth like Kentucky. So our sister Commonwealth, Virginia, did it. So now it's up. Come on, Kentucky.
Yeah.
We can't
There's
let them
other
be
little
outside
small
of.
cities that I think have
Oh
passed
yeah.
it other than
Oh, a
Covington,
lot.
though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Covington passed it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. I think somebody had a question. How do you begin to combat this issue from within? And so it says, I don't believe that white people are the only culprits in this situation. I agree with that. It says, we as Black women also say comments that make other Black women not as comfortable with their natural styles. How do we begin to combat this issue within the culture?
Mm.
And I, I'm going to say that doing what we're doing now is an example of what we can do to kind of combat that. I'll put that up here. Just more education, more dialogue. Also having passed the Crown Act on a state level, if we start to really shine a light on it from a state level, and showing people that hair discrimination is not okay, that will definitely change the mindset, I think, within the culture and outside of the culture. I don't know if anybody wants to add to that.
I think it's important. I think part of the reason it's such a deep issue, right? Like we started to change the way we look to fit in the workplace, and it's decades old, right? Generations old problem. And some people just haven't gotten on board with embracing their whole selves. And so part of that I think is a heart issue, really. And for those of us who are pro natural hair, pro things like the Crown Act, pro Black identity, we just need to continue to uplift people and encourage people to just be okay with who they are and embracing their authentic self from their head to their feet. We just need more of that in the world, because what kind of person puts somebody else down because of their hair that God gave them?
Representative Scott, did you want to tap on what we can do inside the culture to continue to change people's minds?
Yes. Ditto to what you both have already said. And I will just add that internalized racial oppression is what drives us to believe that we should only wear our hair straight and down and long. That comes from having consumed so many narratives from media about what is beautiful, so many narratives from the corporate world about what's accepted and what's professional. And sometimes we don't even recognize that when we say hurtful things about someone's hair that's natural, it's coming from a place where we've been fed these messages. That we don't necessarily feed these messages to ourselves. Come on, y'all. If you're watching movies and television and listening to music every single day and picking up the newspaper and watching the news, you're fed these messages every day, all day, about what's acceptable. And of course, it's going to sink in at some point, and you're going to start questioning your own people who already have the foot of oppression on their necks. You're going to start questioning and adding an additional layer of oppression. And you may not even mean to do that. But you've become so consumed by what's external that you're bringing it into our community. So I encourage folks, as soon as you find yourself starting to say something like that to someone, just stop for a minute and just recognize what you're about to do, the hurt, the harm that you can cause by talking about someone's hair, right? Because I can speak for myself, to have my hair the length that it is now and in the condition that it is now, very healthy, that takes time, it takes discipline. And for someone to just kind of downplay, denigrate my hair. You've denigrated, you've downplayed the fact that it took me years to get here. It took me years. This wasn't overnight. So I was very intentional and very committed to where I am today.
Yeah, I think when you hit on that oppression, like we don't realize that internalized oppression that we have on the inside of us. That's why we struggle with issues like colorism, and things like that. And hair is just another example of that internalized oppression. I think that's really good advice to kind of just stop, take a breath, and maybe even ask yourself, why do I have an issue with the way they're wearing their hair? Like it's their hair. Why do I have an issue with that? Because a lot of times it's not the other it's not the person that you're talking about. It's you. So that I think when we start as a culture, people who actually have natural hair or curly hair, if we start as a culture kind of thinking about putting yourself in that person's shoes first before you speak on it, that'll definitely help help in the culture. I see there's another question. It says, what more can we do to make sure the Crown Act is passed? Are we able to follow the progress via social media? And that came from Erica. And I'll go ahead and post in the chat. I have a link that I can post. There is a form letter that you can send to your legislator in support of the Crown Act. And just make sure. And you can send that in. You can contact your representative in your particular district and tell them that you are in support of it. And then I'm sure there's other ways, and I'm going to let Representative Scott talk about what we can do too.
Definitely. So thank you so much for that question, Erica, about what you can do to make sure the Crown Act is passed. One thing I will say is, please share your stories with me. I know that my contact information is going to be shared in the chat and as a follow-up. So please share your story with me. We want to collect people's stories and their experiences with discrimination based on their hair. Stories are powerful. They make a difference. They can help to sway hearts and minds. Again, yes, please contact your state representative. Make sure they're signed on as a co-sponsor of the Crown Act. I'm so grateful to the folks who've already signed on as co-sponsors. Make sure you contact the Speaker of the House and ask him to assign the Crown Act to committee so it can be heard in committee before the session ends. So y'all, time is of the essence. The session ends March 30th. So next month. That really means to this week, after you watch this live, make a plan this week to reach out to your state rep and to Speaker Osborne. The other thing that I will say is to the second question, which is following the progress via social media. Yes, I try to make sure that I post regularly on my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter fact sheets about the Crown Act. Make sure that people know how to get involved and get engaged. I often do a thank you shout out to the folks who signed on as co-sponsors. And as soon as the bill is assigned to committee, I'll post that. And then when it gets a hearing, I'll post that as well so folks can watch the hearing online and follow the progress. So thank you so much for that question.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That was also one of my I guess questions or things that I wanted to bring up about what you can do, because it's all about now action and not just words, and just kind of speaking up like what we're doing today, educating what Representative Scott has been doing for the past 2 years, educating everybody about the Crown Act, and then driving awareness and just letting people know, where they can do to kind of put feet to ground, put some action on top of your words. So hopefully you all can utilize the link that we just put in the chat. And again, that's just like a form letter that you can email in. You can actually snail mail it in. You can share that so that with your friends and family members and coworkers, and tell them to say, hey, we need to send this in so that we can get the Crown Act into committee, and then out of committee.
That's right. That's right. And just so folks know, today, this morning, I did share on my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter a fact sheet, a one-page document about the Crown Act, what it's about, where it is in the State House, how many states have passed it, just so you have an easy to use document to educate people about the Crown Act. So if you want to take that and share it on your social media, please do. Please feel welcome to share it far and wide, because education is key, right? There are going to be people who have a number of questions, and I think that one pager answers a lot of questions, and then you can include in your post how folks can take action.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna make sure that we get that post and share it on our social media after this, so that we can keep the dialogue going. Let me see. Let me check the chat just to make sure we're not missing any questions.
While you're doing that, I have a question. Representative Scott, have you had the opportunity to speak with any representatives from any other state, or even here in Kentucky, who, like Covington, who have been able to successfully get the Crown Act passed in their state? And if you have, what have they said is like their secret to getting it, the success of it, getting it passed in their states?
Colorado is the one state that I have had a chance to have a conversation with, because one of the key supporters is a graduate of Emerge Colorado, and I'm a graduate of Emerge Kentucky, and it's a training program for Democratic women who want to run for office. So we were able to connect. And really, one of the things that she talked about is being able to get a number of her colleagues in the State House to sign on to the bill to support it. And when you get more and more people to do that, it's kind of hard to ignore the bill, because you got half of the legislative body that signed on. So then it gets a chance to be heard. But also, they did an amazing job in Colorado of getting the word out, getting a lot of attention and support behind the bill, which is what we're doing right now. With this conversation, with this live, we're building up that attention, we're building up that support. I didn't even mention that Queen Latifah funded a documentary last year of the Crown Act movement, the work, I don't want to call it a movement, but the Crown Act work that we're doing here in Kentucky. We had a documentary that was done last year about that work. So you can check out that documentary, share that as well as a resource. That's how we build and get to the point where we can get the bill passed.
Awesome.
And
so in Kentucky, you said we need half of the legislative body to sign on?
That would be ideal if we could, get at least 50 members of the House, since it's a House bill. That would be amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm putting the link to that documentary in our chat right now, so that if people want to check that out, not right now while we're talking, but later on, if you want to check it out, the link is in the chat so that you can access that. And it's a really good documentary. I actually got a chance to check it out, and it is very moving. So I definitely want to kind of just circle back to making sure that people know to contact your House representatives, tell them to sign on to the bill, send in the form letter, the link that we have in the chat, send that in, let people know individually that, hey, we need to get behind this. Continue to follow Representative Scott and what she's doing on her social media, so that we can follow along to see what else we can do to kind of keep it going. There's also a national website too, thecrownact.com, and they have, just from a national standpoint, just more education and information on their national website as well. And then I wanted to personally challenge other salons and business owners to continue with this dialogue, so that we can keep it going and get this passed. Because I think the state of Kentucky, with everything that's going on, we need some light to be shined on. And I think this piece of legislation is a piece of light that will give people just more energy to keep on pushing forward. And then Shanika and Representative Scott, if y'all wanted to add anything.
I think there's an interesting bit of information. As I started to look more into the Crown Act, I found out, like, Dove is one of the big national sponsors of it, which is not something that I knew from the beginning. So I think that's awesome. And I think there's a number of other national sponsors who are kind of funding and helping to push the act through on a national level. So I think that's really eye-opening for companies like Dove and other companies. There's also a few companies that are starting to loosen their hair restrictions on their employees. And I think that's something to be noted too. Like I want to say UPS is one of them because they had quite a few restrictions on natural hair and they're starting to ease up on those. United States military.
Yes.
So just something to keep in mind and think about as we go forward and continue to talk about this and advocate for it.
Isn't that something? I'm so glad you brought up the military. If the military is starting to ease restrictions, why in the world can't we not get the Crown Act passed in Kentucky?
Right.
Right. It just makes sense. I do want to say to people who are tuning in, if you don't know who your state representative is, that's okay, because you can find out from our website. You can also find out from, even after this Facebook Live, I'm happy to post the link to how you can find out who your state rep is. This is a great way to get connected to them, for them to know who you are. They should know who you are because they are responsible to you and should be responsive to you. So this is a great way to get connected. And I just want to say before we go, thank y'all so much for having me on here. This is how we grow. This is how we build. This is Black History Month, y'all. Can you imagine us making history in Kentucky this month with passing the Crown Act? That would be phenomenal.
That would be so awesome during Black History Month if we were able to get it passed. Even just, I think, a win for 2021 if we're able to get it passed, because one of the things that I was like, well, is this dialogue important? In the backdrop of all the things that are going on. Need I say, Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and all the social unrest and all of that. And I was like, well, is this an important piece of legislation that something we really should be focusing on? And for me, I said yes, because on the surface, people saying, oh, they're just talking about hair. But when you really pull that surface back and you go just a little bit deeper, to me, it's what makes me passionate about what I do. It's about, self-acceptance, self-love, worth, all of those things. And when we start to really focus on those things as a people, and the state really sees how important it is to pass legislation like this, I think it's going to heal a lot of wounds moving forward. So this, I think people will say, oh, this is kind of frivolous and people don't need to be focused on this. But really, this is a step forward for us in a healing process, or even in just a movement forward, like I said, a light at the end of the tunnel, so that people know that their voices are being heard.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm going to put your social media information back into our chat so that people will have it, just in case they missed it earlier, and so that we can continue to follow you, Representative Scott. I want to personally thank you for taking the time out. I know that you are super busy, and we really appreciate you signing on and being the sponsor and the spokesperson on the state level for something that is so important for so many people. Like we said, male, female, Black, white, everybody in the state of Kentucky.
Thank you. This is what responsible business models look like. That you have your clients that you take care of, but you also take care of our community. So thank you so much. I want to celebrate and honor Black women-owned businesses, including CNR Beauty Bar, and appreciate y'all for creating the platform this evening for folks to be able to learn more about their opportunity to be advocates for good public policy.
Shanika, did you want to add anything before we wrap it up?
Nope, just thank you. Just want to encourage everybody to get in touch with your representatives, your legislators, encourage them to sign on to the bill, and yeah.
Let's put some action to these words, y'all. Yes, and happy Black History Month.
Yeah.
Right. All right, ladies. Thank you all so much for the discussion. Again, if anybody has any other questions, concerns, we put our contact information, of course, on our Facebook. You can contact us, and you can also reach out to Representative Scott. And we'll be following this very closely and reposting and keeping you all informed about the Crown Act.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
Have a good night.
Good night.